Good afternoon. I would like to welcome you all to Six Consulting's webinar topic for the day, which is Unstruck, Overcoming Lightning Adoption Challenges. Through this webinar, we will be sharing our insights on Lightning migration and how you can best boost user adoption during and post migration. Without further ado, I hand over to James DeFriesa. James is an amazing resource out here at Six Consulting on Salesforce, and we hope to share some of the insights he and his team have gathered over the years with our Salesforce implementations. James, over to you.
Thank you, V. It's a pleasure to be here with you all today. As V mentioned, I will be running through the main points that you need to keep in mind for a successful Lightning migration. I'm sure that most of you have already started or are in the process of getting through to your own Lightning org. And here I have a brief overview of the best practices you should keep in mind for a successful transition. During our recent project with a manufacturing company, we learned that migration was something that they were hesitant to tackle due to the high level of customizations that they needed for their internal processes. Now, this was an issue that we've heard about from several other clients as well. It's hardly unique. Some of the questions that they had were, what are all the customizations that they currently have in Classic? Do you need all these customizations implemented within Lightning? Does Lightning have an out-of-the-box feature for these customizations in Classic? And how do we create a prioritized list of custom components that need to be migrated to Lightning? As well as what are some actions to optimize usage and performance? So within the manufacturing sector, some of the key issues that were being faced were a lack of resources for the migration, as well as a number of critical customizations that the companies in question faced, and they were concerned about migration. The approach that we took was to evaluate exactly which of those customizations were critical, and then we would migrate those kind of in the priority queue as it is. It's same with healthcare. A healthcare company that we worked with, they had similar concerns. They had a larger working group size of, around 3,000 users, and they were looking to migrate more than 500 Visualforce pages that were required. We were able to also help them enhance visibility with user reports and create dashboards post-migration, with reports that were of a tremendous help to them. So the problem they were facing, they were unsure of performance speeds. They didn't want to take a hit to that. And they were also, there were mobile specific customizations that were needed for their sales teams. And the approach that we took with them at a very, very high level, we did initial rollout to empower their users to identify any issues that their users would come into. And we also identified and replaced Lightning incompatible components for them to help them get over that migration hump. So with that, we now come to the first step in the process of migration planning. In my book, this is something that requires you to get your data together that can be presented to the executive sponsors and stakeholders for their buy-in. I'm sure all of you know that without your stakeholders, this will not be successful in any way, shape, or form. So as a starting point, we offer our clients a Lightning migration checklist to help them through this process. I also want to mention that this resource is available for the participants of this webinar, and anyone else looking can visit our website where it's available for download. I will have the link available to you at the end of this presentation. So step one, discovery. Some of the questions that we discuss during any initial discovery phase, we need to identify your executive sponsor and your key stakeholders. As I mentioned before, they are the key to making this a success. Number two, we need to perform a change impact assessment to see how your company will be affected. Find out what users think of your Salesforce implementation and of Lightning experience in general to identify potential adoption barriers. Number three, next you need to collect the data to convince them. And in order to do that, you need to answer some questions. How does moving to Lightning Experience benefit your business? What does your Lightning Experience implementation look like? What work is needed to prepare your org and your users for Lightning Experience? And how much will the transition project cost? Some other things that need to be taken into consideration here. Which workflows and processes are critical for day-to-day operations? And you're going to need to check in with your teams to get their input on that. Are any of your processes overly complicated? You can look for ways to reduce clicks and eliminate unnecessary steps to make everybody's life a little bit easier. Are there multiple ways to accomplish the same outcome? If so, pick the best approach that works for you and leave the others in the rear view. And what are the pain points in your org, and are they addressed by Lightning Experience features? You need to prioritize setting up the features that solve the biggest problems first. It's my experience that it's easier to get a buy-in from stakeholders when such a major switch can be tied into a key business process overhaul. For example, like the launch of a new sales program or a rehaul of your existing systems. Step 2.
James, if you could you go back to the discovery slide for a second? This is David Smith, and I have a question for you.
Mm-hmm.
The stakeholders involved in putting your discovery together, what's your opinion about who should be involved in that group and how they should participate? Should this be a joint effort? Should one leader put together the entire discovery process and then present it back to the stakeholders, or is there active participation?
So that is going to depend largely on the organizations that are looking to make the implementation. Some companies do have a hierarchy in place where one person is going to be the ultimate voice in what happens. But in a lot of companies, it's going to be more of a panel, you know, a board of directors type thing. But it's important to get all of them on the same page, because if you are looking at a board of directors scenario, it's not going to move forward without a majority vote. So you're going to want to present all of this to each of those people and get the general consensus to be that Lightning is the right move.
Okay. Will they be looking at complexities and trying to weigh those across all of the applications involved? Has that been your experience?
Oh, most certainly, most certainly. But on a personal note, a lot of times it's going to come down to money and ROI. You know, they're going to want to see a benefit. Like I was saying earlier, with the speeds of the org, they're going to want to see an improvement in that.
Great. All right. Thanks for answering that.
All right. So rollout. What are we doing once we have the plan? Let's start this rollout. You're going to want to familiarize yourself with the Lightning Rollout Trail Mix. If you're not familiar with trail mixes, they are a free resource that Salesforce provides to teach people what's going to happen. I highly recommend everybody go check those out. Once that's done, you can run the Lightning Readiness Report, and that's going to give you a quick evaluation of your org and the current classic usage. This will help you estimate user impact and the level of effort needed for a successful switchover. Then you can identify orgs that are ready for Lightning and select super users from these orgs for a pilot user group. Their feedback over the next 2 weeks will help you tweak your Lightning plan. These super users would be your champions, if anybody's familiar with that term. You want users kind of driving the initiative, and they're going to they're going to drive adoption post-migration and provide key insights on pay points and problem areas during the migration. Next, a good practice that we found is to create a chatter group to facilitate communication and collaboration with your users as you roll out Lightning Experience and tweak your plan based on the feedback. Your Salesforce champions can help drive the conversation on chatter with segments, such as feature of the week type things that are going to help users become aware and excited about the upcoming challenges. You can also take advantage of the transition tools available to automate many adjustments and streamline those processes. And then we have step 3, optimization. After your rollout, it's going to be important to collect data to measure the success of your actual migration. Collecting metrics on the number of active Lightning users, number of times people switch back and forth between Classic and Lightning, or even the most visited Lightning pages are a great way to measure, what's working and what's not working for your users. Lightning does have several ways to collect feedback. Lightning Experience user feedback form, or through informal chatter polls, or even through a survey app. If you want to, you do want to keep users engaged, you can discuss their feedback in weekly meetings, stand-up type scenarios. And this is going to help ensure that your users feel that their concerns are being heard and that they're being acted upon. And should you take the approach of a phased rollout, it's going to be a matter of learning from these experiences to improve future rollout plans. We want to improve with each iteration. So best practices for migration. In brief, here's some key steps for a successful migration. You want your team to be comprised of stakeholders, your technical team, obviously, and then you're going to want some UAT testers to go in and get feedback for the changes that you're making. You want to run the Lightning readiness report. You want to construct a user rollout plan. You want to construct a data migration plan. You want to construct a communication plan. And then most importantly, in my experience, is you want to get a feedback plan from the users after you go live. Because one of the big parts of this is that you do want to tailor your Lightning experience to your users. Of course, all this would be a waste of time if we can't drive the necessary user adoption to make it a success. This is our advice to our clients on how they can keep the user adoption going initially till everyone gets used to the new org. So 6 ways that we have where you can keep that momentum rolling once you are live. Be sure and check if people are switching back and forth to Classic. The goal is to not have them do that. You want to monitor that usage. You want to keep an eye out, keep your ear to the tracks on any new functionality that you can implement to make your users happier. Talk to your users to understand what works for them and the aspects that they think that they still have issues with. You want to conduct regular chatter meets where users can discuss best practices and pain points that they are experiencing. And definitely keep training material ready for those who need a refresher or as a resource when you need to onboard new team members. And here I got some tips that I'd like to share that we have seen have success with boosting user adoption in our implementations so far. We want to create custom activity actions that tackle specific requirements or steps in your business process, including but not limited to custom actions in the activity composer is going to help users fly through routine work, and it ensures that your org's activities records include all the necessary details. Some more Lightning hacks to boost adoption. We want to identify apps that can cater to the needs of your users from the App Exchange. We want to share user success stories to increase user buy-in. Word of mouth is the best advertisement in the world, and if you get some excited users, they're going to spread the word on to their colleagues. And we want to create database and short instructional videos to guide the users again. We don't want people just out there trying to figure it out on the fly. Here's some tips we have found that specifically help the sales teams with adoptions. We want to add utility bars to our apps, add contacts to multiple accounts. We want to create chatter feed streams. We want to boost team collaboration with Lightning communities. And just on a personal note, adding keyboard shortcuts for chatter to reduce window switching. People do love using keyboard shortcuts. I hope that this brief discussion has helped you evaluate where you stand in the migration or user adoption process. As I mentioned earlier, all the participants will be mailed across the checklist for reference. For all those who are interested, please contact us at the above mentioned link, and we will be happy to send it across to you as well. So just to wrap this up with a brief note about who we are at Six. Six Consulting is a Salesforce partner and boasts a 150 plus strong team in Salesforce design experts. We're proud to be a very diverse team, and we have won several awards throughout the years. And we have been working in this space for around 15 years and have successfully completed implementations over various verticals like healthcare, manufacturing, and finance, just to name a few. I want to thank you all very much for your time today. And if there are any questions, I would be happy to answer them now. You can also reach us at hello@sixconsultingcore.com for any other support you might need.
Thanks, James, for wrapping that up. I do have a couple of questions that have come in over here. Thought I'd pass them across to you. The first one is, why is it that some companies are still on Classic and have not migrated across to Lightning?
There's no clear-cut answer to that question. Each business is going to have their own various reasons. A big one that we've seen is technical debt. They've spent a lot of time developing in Classic, and they see that as a gigantic hurdle that they're going to have to overcome. Some people are just adverse to change. So it's important to keep in mind that Classic will be phased out at some point. We don't actually know when it will be. Best estimates 4 to 5 years probably, but this is something that's on the road, ahead of you. So if you haven't begun or even started thinking about transitioning to Lightning, now's the best time to do it.
All right, I think that answers another question that had come in was, is Salesforce really getting rid of Classic, or is it something, that will stay around for quite some time? But I think you covered that. The other question that I have here is that, is it better to have a mixed environment or do the whole org, at one go? What have you found through the implementations that you all have worked on?
We have found that it's better to do the phased approach I was speaking about earlier. You're going to want to find the most critical points of your business and begin there. You want to do the least work for the most results is another way to go. But going in one shot is, I don't personally recommend it. It is an available option, but I recommend going phased.
Okay, so I think if that is it, I don't see any other questions coming in, but thank you so much, James, for this, for the session and sharing the information. And of course, as you mentioned, if anyone else has any more information they're looking for or more details on how to boost user adoption post-migration, you can get in touch with us. Thanks a lot for joining us and have a great day ahead.